truly humble under God. That's what thug means.
Waiting for one juror that has still not been able to be located. I have asked our sheriff's team to go ahead and see if they can find her.
Free fuck, mistrial. Free fuck, mistrial.
I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go to sleep on y'all. I ain't gonna tell you no lie.
Switching gears now to Georgia, where the longest-running trial in state history, the YSL Rico trial against Jeffrey Williams, otherwise known as Young Thug, is finally over after the rapper and 5 of his co-defendants took plea deals. So as of today, only one defendant remains. The rap star, along with 27 others, were arrested in May of 2022 on a sprawling 56-count indictment. Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis made it clear during a news conference that her office intended to use rap lyrics as evidence of gang activity.
I think if you decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm going to use it. You do not get to commit crimes in my county and then decide to brag on it, which you do that for a form of intimidation and to further the gang and not be held responsible. One of the lyrics used in this indictment, just one of the lyrics, is me and my crew striking out, striking in all black. Send me the drop, we'll kick in the house. If we steal a car, we're gonna take off the tag. Well, they kicking indoors, committing home invasions, and now I'm using those lyrics that they're admitting to doing that. I'm gonna continue to do that. People can continue to be angry about it. I have some legal advice. Don't confess to crimes on rap lyrics if you do not want them used, or at least get out of my county.
Now, Williams was denied bond several times after being hit with charges related to heading up an Atlanta street gang operating under the name, or allegedly operating under the name, Young Slime Life, or YSL. Prosecutors claim the gang was responsible for committing illegal and violent acts, including murder, carjacking, armed robbery, and drug dealing. Now, jury selection began in January of 2023, taking about 8 months for a jury to be seated, the longest in Georgia state history. And opening statements began in November of 2023, with the rapper's lyrics at the center of arguments, really on both sides. His defense claimed that Williams's lyrics were protected under the constitutional right to freedom of speech. Finally, after more than a year of trial, including a series of delays, courtroom mishaps, and 3 different judges, Williams accepted a non-negotiated deal last week that sentenced him to 40 years in prison with credit for time served of more than 2.5 years and immediate release. The balance of that time would be suspended, and he would be subject to 15 years probation. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney Keith Adams, one of Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug's attorneys. Thank you so much, Keith, for being here on the show. Truly appreciate you taking out time to be with us tonight.
Great to be here with you, Michael.
All right, let's start off with that non-negotiated plea. Explain to our viewers what that means and why that was the right choice for you and the defense team.
Well, you know, a non-negotiated plea essentially means that you're not able to come to any consensus with the prosecution. You know, you have the defense, you have the prosecutor. They want one thing, we want something. We just can't get to a resolution agreement. So we put it in front of the judge. And we essentially admit to some of the allegations in the indictment, and we ask the judge to sentence us. We make a recommendation, and that's what happened in this case. To some extent, you're putting your fate in the hands of the judge because you don't know what the judge is going to do, and you can't withdraw that plea once the plea is entered and the sentence is pronounced.
So did you have any idea that this would lead to his being released from prison? And tell me, what the, you know, when I was shocked at the terms of this deal. Yeah. It really is not something that you should take lightly. So tell me that. Were you aware that he would be released? And tell me about the terms of the deal, what it ultimately came down to.
We were not aware of that ahead of time. We were hoping that would be the case. That seemed to be the reasonable outcome. That's what we asked for the court to do. We asked for other conditions. You know, some things that Jeffrey does and had done for years anyway. You know, it was a difficult decision. We wanted to go all the way to verdict. We were winning this trial, and we thought we were going to win it. But, you know, the client makes a decision, and Jeffrey at one point decided, you know what, I've been in jail for 2.5 years. There's an option for me to perhaps go home today. Let's explore that option, and that's what we did.
All right, fair enough. It turned out well for you guys, that's for sure. A lot went on in this trial.
Sure.
It made news all the time.
Every day.
One of the things that went on very early in the trial, I want to take a look at it now. We have some video. A lot of the, hay was made about this, that someone in court actually gave drugs or some sort of drug transaction in the courtroom early on in the trial. You'll see here this gentleman walking from the gallery, then hands something to your client. And that was thought to be some kind of drug deal. What actually happened there, Keith?
Yeah, it wasn't a drug deal. You know, one of the problems for Jeffrey Williams is that he is an international celebrity, and a lot of folks who try to ingratiate themselves to him, he barely knew that guy. And as you can see from the video, there's a deputy right in front of Jeffrey. I'm sitting right next to him. The guy comes up to him and goes to give him a pound or give him some dap and puts a pill in his hand, and he puts it on the table immediately, gives it to the deputy. So a lot of hay was made over that. Jeffrey was not suspected of doing anything wrong. He wasn't charged with anything. A lot of ado about nothing.
All right. The other thing that was a real big issue in this case was the use of rap lyrics to try to get this conviction. You guys fought vehemently against it. And in opening statements, here's what was said about that issue and how really it related to First Amendment rights. Let's take a listen.
These are phrases in a song, and whatever the listener takes from it, you will learn that's what the song means. This is art. This is freedom of speech in America.
Keith, that was Brian Steele, your co-counsel, and a lot was made of this idea. What did you make of it, and what was your feelings about them being used? Because ultimately they were allowed to use them.
They were allowed to use them, and I think the district attorney and that office were tremendously misguided in trying to do that. You know, they wanted to sensationalize this case because they had a star in front of them. They knew nothing about Jeffrey Williams' career, about his rap lyrics. They knew nothing about what they meant. They picked and chose, different phrases out of different songs, some of which that weren't even written by him. I mean, it was ridiculously misguided. And I think a grab that the district attorney didn't have to make, ultimately it fell flat, because I think the jury was actually able to see that the lyrics that they chose had nothing to do with these allegations and this huge RICO indictment that they brought against Jeffrey and the other individuals.
When Fonnie Willis brought this case, she said that this YSL gang, or alleged gang, was responsible for close to 85% or 80% of the crime throughout Atlanta. An incredible claim, made the news. What do you make of that claim?
I don't have the explanation for why the district attorney says the things that she says. That was one of the more ridiculous things that we heard. And I guess she wanted to sensationalize the case. The fact is, this was Jeffrey Williams and a lot of these individuals charged in this indictment were people who grew up in the Cleveland Avenue area of Atlanta. There's a lot of crime over there, and they're individuals who did individual things. I don't know where she pulled that figure out of. And here's one thing to keep in mind. For the period of time that those individuals charged in the indictment were locked up, crime in the city of Atlanta didn't seem to go down. And so it certainly didn't justify this assertion that she made that, she'd cleaned up the streets by charging these 28 people, most of whom, who were charged, had already been convicted and served time for the things that were in the RICO indictment.
Right, the underlying crimes that they were using to make the RICO indictment. All right, finally, I'm running out of time here. I'll let you out after this one. Tell me about Jeffrey Williams. I mean, obviously, incredible entrepreneur, incredible talented artist. What's he like?
All of those things are true. Great guy. Funny as can be. He and I had a great time sitting there in that courtroom for 2.5 years, as much as we were going through what we were going through. But he's a strong guy. He grew up. One of his albums is I Came From Nothing. He really did. He came from nothing. He made his way. He became a multimillionaire, international renowned. And I think he is, in fact, a humble person. Truly humble under God means a lot to him. That is truly what what thug means. He's a good guy, and he was strong enough to weather this storm, and he's going to be fine on the other side of this.
All right, it has been a bumpy ride, but ultimately I think you're pretty happy, obviously, with the outcome of this trial. At the end of the day, I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Truly appreciate it. Keith, thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here with you.
All right, you have a wonderful evening. All right.